Welcome back, HellDivers. It's good to see you again, like always. I've been having a great time with Force of Law Warbond with its unique weapons, stratagems, and nice attire. But have you given the GL-52 De-escalator a try yet? Like, fully used it, from start to finish, as it's quite impressive with what it's capable of. Because today, I'm going to break down the stratagem weapon, its pros and cons, and how to maximize it with certain setups. So, let's push forward. Now, the De-escalator is a manually fed grenade launcher that uses stun grenades as its main source of ammo. This can be gotten for 85 medals from the Warbond, and is one of the first introductions of a new grenade launcher type when compared to the GL-21. Taking a look at the stats, we have the following: damage rate 55, arc, fire rate 60, capacity 6, recoil 93, reload 6.6 seconds, and armor penetration heavy. The De-escalator is a slightly upgraded version of the explosive variant we currently have, but with a large difference between function and value on the field. You will have a max capacity of 6 to use per magazine for an overall 40 in main reserves to use. However, this is not divisible by 40, oddly enough. Now, the weapon will always be set into full auto mode and only has the option of single fire to switch to if you wish. It does not come with any additional options, so you're generally very limited on what you can change up on it, including scopes. However, I do not see this being an issue, as the weapon straight out of the package is pretty fresh to go. It has a very high recoil on 93, so your shots will bounce heavily when firing in full auto, but it is controllable if done slowly. Ideally, you don't want to mag dump the weapon on any enemy, as you need to take into account the recoil, projectile speed, and distance, all three being huge reasonings to prevent yourself from getting killed too much. When it comes to penetration levels, it comes as a 6 for inner radius damage, and a 5 for outer radius damage, which means pretty much everything in your area is capable of being destroyed by the weapon within a few shots. And when I mean destroyed, I don't mean just kill, but also strip their armor to make it easier to use your primary or secondary weapons on most targets. Take the Bio Titan for example, as you can quite easily destroy their outer body shell and leg armor and not actually kill them, but make them vulnerable enough for other means. Now, I do need to clarify, there is a bit of a difference when it comes to penetration levels, as there are two parts to the grenade that are doing damage. The arc grenade AoE effect is what will be applying the huge damage to armored enemies, while the grenade itself will be doing the 4 penetration heavy damage when it lands directly onto the target. This is where the raw damage from the grenade itself will be most noticeable, and will also be leading for netting the most kills. I just want to include that as I'm still learning how deep weapon DPS works, and how raw damage doesn't always equal the true value in the game may always state, if there is something I've missed out, please do comment for me and others to see, as I generally do want to learn more and give a bit more better accuracy over information shared. Now, what it does against the bugs, bots and illuminates in terms of deadly fire rate it provides, it does incredibly well against the vast majority of enemies you face. Capable of killing enemies within 1 to 2 to even 3 shots, either from direct damage or from the arc damage it provides, and against the more bigger enemies like the Bio Titans, it can kill most of them within 5 to 6 shots, but this will depend on where you aim and where your grenades land. Breaking this down even further, because of its inaccuracy with its AoE at times, it can feel as if you need to use an extra round to kill a singular enemy. Ideally, the more weaker enemies like the fodder, it can easily dispatch them within 1 to 2 shots, and this is where the weapon will excel the most in when taking out the large groups of them. Against the bots, it can kill troopers within 1 to 2 shots, which can also be the same when used against the Devastators and Striders, who sometimes die in one shot, or require a second shot as well, just for luck. Against the Hulks, it can take up to 5 to 6 to kill them, but only if you use it against their weak points on the back. On the front, you will be using more ammo to kill them, so it's probably best you prepare yourself in case they do end up chasing you. And against the Illuminates, the Voteless are pretty easy to kill within the 1 to 2 shots area. Against the Overseers, it can take up to 3 to 4 shots depending on how close they are to the AoE detonation, and flying Overseers are going to cause you a lot of problems if you can't get them near the ground enough. Against the Flesh Mobs, it will take up to 2 magazines to kill them, which I highly recommend you don't bother unless you have ammo to use, or if you just need to stun them. Against the Harvesters, it can take up to 1.5 magazines to kill them, but I have noticed this does vary depending on where you aim at the body or aim at the legs. If the legs, it seems to take less shots to kill. So while the weapon seems to excel well in content, it does seem to have its issues, with the most noticeable being the reload speed and demolition power it lacks. This is why it's a good idea to compare it to the GL-21 grenade launcher, which is similar, but not too similar. Comparing the two stats, we can see that the GL-21 blows the De-escalator out of the park with its stats. It's pretty much a more better and lethal version of the De-escalator all the way down to the AP use. Now, while that may seem like a clear-cut win of the two weapons, I wouldn't celebrate so far. Both weapons excel in different areas, and of course will have a high difference between the two. The GL-21 is good against the personnel and armoured units, making it favourable to bring with you on the bug or bot fronts, who tend to throw medium armour enemies out a lot more than most other factions. It's also useful enough to destroy bug holes or fabricators, which allows you to free up your secondary for another weapon, and also prevent you using your stratagem if there's no need to, since your weapon's AoE damage is very noticeable. However, keep in mind that grenades fired by the grenade launcher are incapable of penetrating heavy armour. While it is capable of easily destroying groups of lightly armoured enemies, it has trouble against the large armoured foes, which would mean you need to bring a stratagem to help destroy them or make them vulnerable enough with other weapon types. It also has a type of reload where if you fire half of it and then you reload, you will lose more ammo than you'll keep. So compare this to the De-escalator, and you can see that it reloads ammo one by one, which is noticeably slower than the GL-21, but it does mean you can fire, reload, fire, etc. when the situation gets bad, so it does have its merit when used correctly. The weapon also has a merit of stunning enemies fairly well, which can be useful when surrounded by large groups of enemies, and then you have its capability of destroying heavy armoured units either outright, or by stripping their armour to expose their key areas. And while damage tends to be the big go-to for most players, I don't really see damage being that bad, since it can still kill fairly well as the GL-21. It's like always, it's best to not put all your eggs into one basket, as both weapons excel in areas that most other weapons can't compete in. The De-escalator provides more on the table if you need crowd control, while the GL-21 provides the raw firepower to decimate large swords of enemies in one go. So the De-escalator is a great weapon that is generally perfect in nearly everything it does. Great at ad control, great with stunning enemies, great with dealing with heavy armoured units, and also great for packing just a right amount of punch for a lot of encounters. As there isn't many weapons that can match with its fairly destructive ability, you'll generally not regret using this weapon, as its effectiveness against all three factions is quite noticeable. So there we have it. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you have any thoughts on the content shared, or generally like what was shown, then please leave a like, a comment and subscribe for more future stuff. It was great seeing you again, HellDivers, and I hope to see you again soon.